Welcome to the Intentional Success Podcast, where we unpack the top strategies, explore business trends, and drill down into best practices to help your live events production business grow and scale on purpose. I'm your host, Tom Stimson. Hey, today's podcast is for management teams. If you're part of a management team, this is your wake-up call. Listen, I've been having a lot of conversations this summer about scalability. It's fun, it's exciting, it's different, but it's really scary for some folks. And I want to address one of the biggest concerns that I am hearing from the folks that I'm talking to, a little bit from the owners, but a lot from the management teams. And that is the that moment when they realize that in order to run a scalable business model, they need better people. That they may not have the right people in management positions, that the person I'm talking to may not have the game it takes to succeed in a scalable business model. And that's uncomfortable because now they're not part of the solution, they're part of the problem. And I'm sympathetic and I'm empathetic about this. That's a really bad spot to be in. I mean, it doesn't mean that there's not an important job for you to do in that company, but it may not be the job you think you're doing right now. And God forbid you have to give up the title, right? Maybe there's a title you have that's not the right title for you because we need to hire someone who actually does that job. And we see this all the time, right? I run into this all the time. My favorite story about this was back when I was a manager. I think my title at the time was a rental manager, or maybe by then it was director of operations. But I had an assistant warehouse manager who came to me one day, and we had just recently let the warehouse manager go. That position was not filled. We find that we weren't missing anything by him not being there. And so the assistant warehouse manager came to me and was very concerned that he was an assistant warehouse manager and there was no warehouse manager. And I said, well, I'm not considering you for the warehouse manager job. He goes, I don't want the warehouse manager job. I just want my title to matter. So, all right. Long story short, I think we ended up giving him the warehouse manager title, and no raise went with it. He got the title in lieu of a raise, and then he went out and bought a new car. So people are weird, right? We all put value in things that are a little unexpected sometimes. So getting back to the scalability thing, I'm having conversations with leadership teams about, scalability. We're going to have a selling group, a sales sphere for your business, a planning sphere, and a procurement sphere. And they all serve the purpose of delivering an executable job to the execution people, the direct labor that goes out and does the shows, which are very often outsourced in this model. And the upside of this is huge because it reduces your overhead. It gives you consistent gross profit across most of your jobs. The company will make more money on even less revenue. They can make more money. And life's a lot easier because we're not taking people out of the office and sending them out to do shows, which means we give up planning, we give up selling, we give up training, projects, all those things that get sacrificed. If the busiest day of the year, when you're doing the most work, your office is empty, you are not a scalable company. That's the litmus test, right? So how do we become more scalable? Well, we have to have the right people in the right seats, and they have to stay there. So just because you're a great field project manager doesn't mean you should be director of project management, because if your value is out in the field, you're not directing anything inside the office. You can't hire all the other people because you're busy out there doing shows. There's a lot of things like this that we see all the time in our industry that are inherently unscalable. So when I talk to business owners about scalability and what it means for them, I warn them. Scalability means that you are going to need half as many people in your organization because you're going to eliminate most of your direct labor. Again, that's another thing that makes people very nervous. You're going to eliminate most of your direct labor from your full-time staff. And your direct labor now becomes labor on demand, freelance labor, Doesn't matter how you pay them, doesn't matter what their employment status is. The fact is, they only work when you tell them to work, as opposed to the people who are selling, planning, and buying and scheduling those direct labor. Those people have work to do all the time because they're always working ahead. I say scalable organizations look in the future, non-scalable organizations are focused on the now. So you're going to have half as many people. They're always going to be working on future events. The event that you're doing right now is going to be mostly, if not all, freelance people. Half as many people, but they need to be twice as good. Half as many people, but they need to be twice as good. And this comes up because often when we're talking about this, there's a unicorn. There's that person who's good at everything, right? Oh my God, they're the best person for this, so we put them there. They're the best person for that, so we put them there. And so they're bounced all over the organization. They're on every single job. They're in every planning meeting. They have to go to every, sales opportunity because they are the best person to do all of those things. What do we do with them in a scalable organization? Well, what is their highest and best use? Where are they actually the most effective? Because just because they are the best at something doesn't mean we need them to do it. Sometimes having somebody who's excellent at prepping orders is unnecessary when having somebody who's good at it is more than adequate. And having a check and balance system, that means that we can have people who are good at stuff that are checked by other people who are also good at stuff. So we get the net effect of having an excellent person doing it without having the expense of an excellent person, or sacrificing having an excellent person do something that's even more valuable and more important. So we'll take that unicorn and we say, great, your highest and best use is actually supporting the sales team to help customers with solutions, come up and make sure that we're budgeting these things correctly, that we're putting the right costs into the job, that we're selling a job that's extremely doable. It's a very actionable order that will float into the planning process because you have done a lot of the lifting that sales might not otherwise do. We're putting a technical resource into sales to make them better. Well, I need somebody really good to do that. And that may be where that unicorn goes. And in that world, they may be great, but they're not excellent. It is their highest and best use, but that means that there's also other people out there in the world who are better than they are at that. There's no one better at being all the things, but for somebody who's focused on this, these guys are great. They're exactly what we need. But they do have to be really good. So if I need half as many people and they need to be twice as good, what does that mean to those folks that you've been around for 20 years who are still in the same job and the company has grown? Has their contribution grown? Maybe not. Maybe we need to put a better person in there, but oh my goodness, we're so loyal. I hate to displace them. I can't take away their title. I don't want to put them into a job where they're not the most important person in the meeting because it'll hurt their feelings. And I get all that. So the rest of this podcast is actually directed at that person, not at you who's stuck with making the decision about how to best serve the needs of your business and take care of your customers, build a scalable, profitable organization, which you as the owner deserve to have. But what do you do with these rest of these people? Let me talk to them for a minute. Put them on, would you? Okay, look. Hey, look, there are a lot of changes going on in your company right now. The owner's looking at this. They sees the value in this. We're not going to make all these changes overnight. But in the process, if you don't keep up, you're going to probably lose your spot at the table. But I don't want you to do that. You've got years of institutional knowledge here. You know how to do a lot of stuff. I think you can learn how to do this new stuff. But here's some things that you need to do. Here's the mindset shifts that you need to accept in your role. Whatever your role is, try out some of these things. I mean, basically, number one, I'm asking you to up your game, okay? You need to solve valuable problems every day. And if you're not solving valuable problems, you're not going to be valuable, right? we're going to have to find somebody who's twice as good. I think you can be twice as good. You've just never had the space to do it, and I don't think anybody ever asked you to do it. So solve valuable problems. Work the goals, not the clock, right? I know we work long, horrible hours in our business, but we need to focus on the goals. It's not the amount of time we spent. I'm not asking you to work more time. In fact, you already work too much time. You're not working on the right things, which is part of our problem. But ask about goals. What's the goal that we're trying to accomplish here? And work on that goal and quit wasting time on things that don't serve the goals of the business. Whenever possible, another thing you can do is improve processes by removing yourself from more of it. My dear father worked in the corporate world. He got lots of promotions. Many of you heard me tell the story before. And I asked him one day, why do you keep getting promoted? He goes, well, when I get into a new role, a manager, director, vice president, I look at the team, I figure out what they should be doing that I shouldn't be doing, and I transfer it all to them. I try to eliminate the company's need to have me in this role. I want to replace myself. And when the team is doing all the work and I'm not doing anything, I go to my boss and say, hey, you don't need me in this spot anymore. These guys are doing it. What else have you got for me? Right? So he removes himself by the process. And in the process of doing that, he improved the process out of necessity. Did he work himself out of a job? Yes, he did. Did he get to do more valuable things and work on greater goals? Absolutely. He certainly did. The other thing that you can need to do is pay attention to everything, right? Forget about the silos. You probably, if you're listening to me right now, you probably live in a silo, and I want you to get out of it. Pay attention to everything. Leadership never gets a pass on responsibility. If somebody else is failing and you don't do something about it, you have failed as a leader. So work on it. Look at everything that's going on. Don't stick your nose in other people's business. Just don't let things fail. So we don't get a chance. We don't get to be irresponsible. We don't get a pass on responsibility. That means we are being asked to look at everything, pay attention to everything, and bring it up. And, saying, well, I told you so is not adequate. We're in the show business. We can't let I told you so suffice. We have to do the things that need to be done, even if it means stepping on toes from time to time. Now, those silos, you're still going to have silos, right? You're not a scalable business yet. You aspire to it. Awesome. Work on breaking down the silos now, okay? The way that we do that is we activate cross-communication between the silos. So rather than having a sales meeting and an ops meeting and a production meeting, we need maybe a production ops meeting and a sales ops meeting with very specific agendas. We're not allowed to wander all over the place to make sure people are sharing that information. We're basically dismantling silos, which is the first step to building the spheres that we need to run a scalable organization. And spheres, unlike silos, collaborate. Spheres overlap. They're interdependent. Sales and planning work together. They're focused on what the actual deliverables are. Make sure that we're all working on the same page. Planning and procurement work together. They're very focused on quality. We have to maintain quality and make sure that all the links in our supply chain are up to our standards all of the time. Every job gets the same level of attention. Every job gets the same level of quality in our execution, but they don't all necessarily get the same amount of time if we can meet those quality standards. And then procurement and sales work together because that's our cost basis. Procurement knows what things cost, and we have to share that information with sales. So this collaborative thing allows us to have better pricing, which will lead to tighter scope of works, and planning will reduce our scope creep. And procurement will reduce the amount of things that project managers have to do. And we can deliver a finished job to project management to go out and execute while sales is still selling, planning is still planning, procurement is still procuring. Pay attention to everything, but get out of the weeds. So as the spheres collaborate, Quit nitpicking on details. You're leadership. You're a manager. Okay. For instance, if you're one of those managers who goes out and runs a show site when you're supposed to be running a department, then you're not adding to the company. You're only fixing the job. You're only fixing a job, right? Contribute at the company level. Anybody can contribute at the job level. Plenty of people out there who can get a job done. Very few people are in position to make the company better, and you are. So get out of the weeds and contribute to the big picture. Okay? Push back when the boss wants you to go out on a job. Say, no, I've got the right team there. Here, if you want more security, hire this person. Send an extra person. Don't send me. I got work to do, right? Getting out of the weeds means you have more time to be important to the selling, planning, and procurement process. If you're in the planning group, you can be valuable. You're going to collaborate with procurement and in the sales group. You've got more time to do that. And whenever you can work on improving processes. So by getting ourselves out of the weeds and out of the field, we can spend more time working on processes, which will support the company's execution without relying on you to go out and do it on job site. And when you do that, when you go out on job site, nobody learns the process because you're doing it. So you have to get other people to do that process while you're back at the mothership improving things. Now, I'm not saying don't ever go out on show site. But if you won't make the sacrifice, I don't know why people think going on show site is glorious. I know I did it for 20 years. It's not like I wanted to. It's just the way I make a living. So if you see a lot of glory in that, maybe you should be a show site person. But if you want to be the person that everybody remembers about making your organization better, do these things I'm talking about. And the last thing I want to talk about is looking forward. So I've talked a little bit about, what are you doing now? So if you're sales, planning, and procurement, we are technically always looking forward. We're always working in the future. The only now is what the execution group is doing, which is working in the field. And while that show is going on or that project is being executed, you are working on next week and next month's projects. So look forward. Forecasts are extremely important in scalability. How do you get better at forecasting? Well, we can complain all we want that sales isn't giving us good forecasts. That's not keeping you from forecasting, is it? So forecasting is probably more art than science because there's a lot of gray in forecasting, but you can learn to love the gray by bringing it more into focus. And it doesn't matter if you're in the selling group or the procurement group or the planning group. You can contribute to forecasting because you are familiar with the data. You have the experience. You can make a difference. Look forward, forecasts matter. And then supply chain. You don't have to be in the procurement group to be constantly working on building a better supply chain. Never stop improving the supply chain because that is your key to growth. In a scalable model, we will turn down business. But by improving our supply chain, we can turn down less business. So, in the old model, in the old days, you guys took any revenue you could. You'd have huge peak months because you took on too much stuff. Everybody'd run around crazy. People would get sick. People would quit their jobs. You'd make mistakes. You'd spend a lot of money. And then, the next month is slow. We're going to catch our breath. We'll regroup. We will be better. That's not how it works in scalability. In scalability, we're working on improving all of the time. We're working on increasing our capacity all the time. We're working on making our processes better all of the time. So right now, in the role that you're in, find a way to start doing those things. It's going to happen. Scalability is going to come your way. It's one, it makes a lot of sense. Two, it's actually easier when you set aside your we've always done it that way mindset, which is, a legitimate human nature mindset. I get that. I run into it quite a bit. But as you start to embrace this and accept the fact that in order for your company to grow and succeed, your job's going to have to get narrower. You can't be a hero on all the fronts. You get to be a hero on one front, and it's an extremely valuable front. but you always get to collaborate with the other heroes in your business to move things forward. So there's a lot of exciting things coming up, and in the next couple of years, and we're going to continue to talk about this and have workshops about this. We're going to have webinars about this, blog posts about this. It's going to be a discussion. You're going to bring in new people from other companies that are doing this, and they're going to wonder why you're not doing it. It's going to happen. You're going to get there. It's not going to happen overnight because it is a journey. We don't flip a switch to become scalable. But if you don't start flipping the switch in yourself, scalability has the potential to leave you behind. And I don't want that, right? You've worked too hard for too long, but this is the payoff. This is the career boost, that satisfaction you need, whether you've got 20 years left or 5 years left, like me. This is how we're going to finish strong. So please take this advice in the spirit of which is intended. I want you to be able to get through this strongly. And I'm pulling for you. Now, give me the owner back. All right, owner. You have a team around you that wants to help, and you're going to have to let them do things. I'm asking them to take on more responsibility, to stop micromanaging things. And you've got to let that, you've got to support that. You've got to give them the resources and trust them that say, I can't go out on this job. I need to work on this training module. We need more freelancers. Now's the right time for me to be collecting them. You quit micromanaging me so that I can help your business. So help them help you by letting go of some of your mindsets about how things are supposed to be. If somebody's worked for you for 20 years and you don't trust them implicitly, why are they still there? The fact is, you do trust them. You do count on them to do the right thing. So I'm asking you, let these people do the right thing. Give them every opportunity, give them the support and the encouragement and the tools that they need. Allow them to make some good mistakes. The payoff on this is huge. This is where we get started. So thank you guys for listening. Sometimes my ranty podcasts are painful. Sometimes they're fun. This one is painful. It's kind of fun, but it's really important. Help your team upgrade themselves. Remember, you need half as many people. Which half? The ones that are willing to be twice as good. Thanks for listening. If you want to find out more about today's episode, go to trstimson.com/podcast, where you'll find the show notes, related links, and tons of other valuable resources. If you haven't already subscribed to the Intentional Success Podcast, please do so, and I'd greatly appreciate if you would rate and review the show. Also, if you think you might be a good fit to work together or want more information about the Stimson Group, I'd love to hear from you. Visit trstimson.com for more information.